All right, welcome back everyone to another lovely episode of Stormwatch, where the Willises, Brad is over there, John is over here. As usual, we are going to discuss the Carolina Hurricanes. This particular episode focused on the upcoming series, round 2 versus the New York Rangers. I'm going to do a little bit of a series preview, talk about some X factors, some keys to the series. But how are you feeling? How excited are you for the series?
I'm extremely excited. I think our history has shown, at least our recent history, that we will play to our competition. And these games with the Rangers have always been good games. Last year it went 7 games, right?
2 years ago.
2 years ago, and we lost. We lost with a home ice advantage.
Yeah.
That was a very disappointing series in my mind, because I thought that we had that game 7.
Yeah, we were looking good that year. I believe we won the President's. Won the division that year.
Yeah. So I'm excited about the series, but the Rangers
I've been thinking about it all week. I've been super excited about it. The past 2-3 days, it's been just all I've been consuming. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to watch the game live. I've got my freaking championship for my hockey game, the team I play.
We should preview your game. That would be awesome.
Another missed pass. Oh, that shot went 10 feet wide. Yeah, no, we don't need to look too far into that. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to, and then I've got a dinner with a buddy. It's his birthday, so I've got to do a dinner after that. And the people who I'm going to be at dinner with are going to know the score, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So
they will know who will
they're going to know who will have won, and I've told them to not tell me. About
you're going to know. You'll never be able to get away from it.
I know. So hopefully we come out of it with a win, and then I don't have. Once I hear the result, I can be relieved about it rather than.
Okay, so a little bit different. Okay. A little bit different this time around is that we do not have home ice advantage.
Yep.
So it's imperative that we take one of these first 2 games.
I agree 100%. Winning one of these first 2 games is in my eyes almost essential to winning the series. I mean,
it's essential.
You can win 2 at home and then win their third home game, so game 5, and then get on a roll from there. But yeah, I think it's very critical to do that, and that'll bring that back up again when we talk about our predictions at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I know we gave rough predictions. I've had more time to think about it, be critical about it, look into some stats. So yeah, we'll do a kind of a refresh on those predictions that we did last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what are your kind of keys to the series as it starts on Sunday at 4 p.m.? Like you said, that'll be in Madison Square Garden, the Carolina Hurricanes. The only other team in the Eastern Conference that wouldn't have given them home ice advantage is who they're up against in the second round, and it is what it is. But what are your keys to this series?
I think it's imperative that we play our style of hockey and stay out of the penalty box. They're a very talented team. They'll kill us on the power play. Our
PK was best in the league in the regular season. Obviously, it struggled there versus the Islanders. Which is surprising given that they don't have an elite power play.
Right.
But
we
New
struggle
New York certainly does. And yeah, go ahead. You mentioned playing our style, and I do think that's very important because the Islanders didn't really allow us to do that, right?
No, it's going to be a totally different series. So we're going to get into some of the stats, but keep in mind that we played the Islanders, who were the third highest scoring team in the Metro. And while the Rangers played the Capitals, who really didn't even belong in the playoffs. So the stats are going to be a little bit misleading, but it could work out in our favor because we are prepped more going into round 2 because we had to play a tough Islanders team. Whereas I think the Rangers playing a Capitals team, really they swept and they handily took care of they scored four goals in almost every game except for they scored 3 in the other. But
I would agree. The Islanders were certainly a team that in my eyes were built for the playoffs a little bit more than the Capitals were. The Capitals have their heyday of winning the cup 5 years ago at this point. That certainly is past. They don't have that extended window like a team like Tampa has. But yeah,
Right.
I think you're right. I think it is going to be a different series altogether, right? A little bit more wide open this series as compared to the Islanders, who do lock it down a little bit more. That's not to say that the Rangers don't have a bad defense. They certainly have a very, very good defensive core.
Yeah.
You've got Keandre Miller back there, Jacob Trouba,
Fox.
Ryan Lindgren. Adam Fox, haven't even mentioned him. So the list just goes on, and you could do the same thing on their offensive side of things. So
Right.
it's going to be an amazing series. I mean, the teams match up incredibly well over 82 games, and they were only separated by 3 points at the end of that. Now,
Yeah.
I'd like to think if the Hurricanes get off to a little bit hotter start than they had at the beginning of the season, we'd probably have a significant, sizable lead in terms of points. But it didn't go down that way. But the odds makers in Vegas still has us as the favorites, and still have us as the favorites to win the cup, even though we don't have home ice advantage.
It's
even
amazing,
though we're
isn't it?
up against the team that has the most points in the NHL and won the President's Trophy this year. So yeah, it is.
Yeah.
There's plenty of reason to be worried about this series, but remind yourself there's plenty of reason to be optimistic going into this series. And so, before I had really had a chance to kind of look at some numbers and things last episode, I was a little bit, I was vocalizing my apprehension a little bit more. I'm less so about that. I've come to the realization that, and the acceptance that, we are going to play the best team in the regular season in the second round rather than, what should be probably a conference championship. But here we are. So my keys to this series are very similar to yours. All of your points I certainly do agree with. But a lot of people talk about how on this series, the power play and the penalty kill and special teams is really going to matter.
It's going to be crucial.
And it ultimately is going to matter. But I think this series is going to be won or lost on 5-on-5, right? And that goes back to your point of getting to the Hurricanes style, right? If the Hurricanes can get to their style of game, which is massive amounts of pressure, massive amounts of O time, good forecheck in the offensive zone, just cycling through the puck, creating a lot of offensive chances. We know that they're not necessarily always going to be a grade A chance, but you pepper a goalie, even of Igor Shesterkin's caliber, 1,000 times, death by 1,000 cuts. Something's going to go in. Some pucks are going to go in the back of the net, right? And we saw that happen against Varlamov and Sorokin, two very, very capable goaltenders. They're not Shesterkin, but he's certainly beatable, and I'd like to get to him early. But like I said, this series I think is going to be 5-on-5 in the sense that if we can get to our style, we're going to draw more penalties than the Rangers are going to draw. And, I think that really bodes well for whatever team has the most chances on the power play. If it's by a wide margin, then that's really going to be critical. And I think the Hurricanes, the way they play, can lend that to being the case, right? They can have the potential for them to have a massive amount of more power plays than the Rangers, given their style of play 5-on-5. So that's what I mean when it's 5-on-5.
So
the Rangers have a really good penalty kill as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Let me reiterate my keys, because I don't know that I fully did. So as we spoke before the telecast here, I think that we need to maintain a strong O-zone presence and forecheck. That's key number one. Key number two is no bad passes in the neutral zone, and when I are bad decisions. So when I think about that, and I think about our roster, I think of players like Natchez, right? He has a tendency to start trying to skate between people. You can't do that at the blue line, because if the puck gets turned over at the blue line, forget about it.
Yeah.
And Kuznetsov has maybe a tendency to throw an errant pass as he's entering the zone as well. So those are the keys. If you can't enter the zone, then just dump it in, right? That's let's keep the puck down at our end, or I guess their D zone, our O zone. And the third one is you touched upon, is the special teams, which we've been elite, but the Rangers had a pretty darn good year on special teams as well.
Yeah, they were third in both PK and power play in terms of rankings. Hurricanes were second in power play, first in penalty kill. But like I said, the penalty kill has certainly dropped off a lot in the first round. Now it's one round, it's 4 games, smaller sample size than 82 games, but it definitely had some moments of concern, particularly guys being left all alone in front of Anderson, Anders Lee on one of their power play goals from last series, and they've got guys that are net front guys that are elite in Chris Kreider, and so.
Yeah.
How do you defend a guy like that on an otherwise also elite power play? Artemi Panarin, Vincent Trocheck, Adam Fox is on that first unit working it as the quarterback from the point.
Yeah.
So, he's a net front guy. He's a tip guy. When you're down a man, you kind of have to leave a guy open. And generally, the guy in front of the net is the guy that's left open, and he's kind of left to the goalie to deal with.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting how we strategize against that.
I was looking at the last game that we played against them in the regular season. It was a 1-0 win for the Rangers. Now, the one goal that went in was through Kochekov's legs after a shot from Adam Fox, a slap shot, bounced off Brady Shea's boot and just went right through his legs.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing Shea could do about it. Nothing Kochekov could do about it. Just one of those lucky hockey goals. Okay, but otherwise. Kochekov was excellent in that game. I'm sorry. What were we talking about? I lost my train of thought as to why I even brought that up.
The power play, leaving a man alone.
Yeah, right. So I was thinking, is Anderson the guy that's quick enough to react and get out there on those one-on-one situations on a power play, or is maybe Kochetkov with an active stick a guy that can then? It was just a thought I had. I'm not saying we go to Kochetkov. You definitely keep Anderson in that. I'm not saying you don't, but it's just something I was thinking about and I thought worth mentioning here. But yeah, sorry. Going back to your argument is the penalty kill and power play are going to be huge here, and I agree. But I do say that can be that battle can largely be won on 5-on-5, right? If you maximize the amount of power plays you're taking by really playing a strong 5-on-5 game and earning those penalties, then I think that can largely take care of itself in terms of making sure we have an advantage in terms of chances on the power play. And then, another thing to echo your point is stay out of the box. That goes the other way. Rather than earning the penalties, got to make sure you stay out of it. Svechnikov, I loved his discipline last series. Let's see if he can keep that up. He took one dumb penalty. I believe it was in game 1, game 2. He, guy shoved him. He shoves the guy back, but as he shoves that guy, his stick rides up that guy's arm and ends up catching him in the face. So they're going to call it, 10 out of 10 times when they see that. And then the last thing is goaltending. I touched on it with is Anderson the right guy? Yes, Anderson is the right guy for right now until he's shown otherwise.
Right.
But I do think, Kochekov's the young hot Russian in the league. Shesterkin's been there for a few years. I do think he likes competing against his fellow countrymen in that sort of way. And we know he's got that fire to him, which, the last series, there was some of that, and Freddie actually showed some fire himself in that series. Fighting back against, I think it was Anders Lee who kind of crashed into the net against him. But I don't know, it's just something to think about that, they definitely have the edge right now in terms of goaltending. As hot as Freddie has been, he wasn't absolutely stellar last series. He won you a couple games for sure.
Yeah.
He definitely kept us in some games and was critical to the win. But Shesterkin can truly steal a game from you. And so the Hurricanes got to crack that nut early, I think. So, those are kind of
I don't want it to be one of these.
Is 5-on-5 and then effort and hustle, right? You got to play the Hurricane style of game. And that effort and hustle is going to lead to more chances on the power play. And stay out of the box and goaltending, right? In terms of X factors, we've kind of already mentioned some of these, like players that can be X factors. Kreider for them. Really all of their top guys, Panarin, Zibanejad had a good series in round 1, and then Shesterkin, of course. Now for us, Freddie would be the counterpoint, and then Gensel. He's always been great in the postseason against the Rangers. He's definitely has more to his game than was revealed in the first round. in terms of what we expected out of him come playoff time. He had a goal and 3 assists in 5 games. 4 points in 5 games that's great. That's fine. I'll take that 10 out of 10 times. But one of his goal was an empty net goal. Svechnikov, obviously, he was excellent in the first series, but he could have been statistically even better with how good he was playing, right? He hit the post a couple times. You get a couple more goals out of him, on top of the assists and all the other things he's doing on the ice that are leading to the Hurricanes winning. And I think that's, if he can elevate even more, then that's another X factor type of guy. But really, for me, this one comes down to the non-stars, right? We talked about this a little bit before the telecast, but their stars are so good. Our guys are so good. Our top 2 lines are so good. The third and fourth line, I think, is where we have an advantage, right? Do you happen to have those line I think I've got them pulled up here, the line combinations. Yep. So, I personally think that that's the case. How do you feel? If we can just kind of limit their guys on their top 2 lines, does it really matter if our guys necessarily aren't scoring on our top 2 lines?
If we keep their lines equal, yes, it's fine. That's a good strategy. If we can nullify their top lines and let our bottom lines do our scoring for us, but that's not necessarily a strategy I would propose to the team.
No, but
I'm just saying it could happen.
Right? Wouldn't you be okay if I told you at the beginning of the series, this series is going to be that there's not going to be any goals from the top 2 lines on either team?
Oh, we would win.
We would win that series, right? I would agree with you, right? So let's take a look at their lines. Up on their top 2 lines, you've got Chris Kreider on the left, Zibanejad at center, Jack Roslovic as the right wing. Panarin on the left on the second wing, Vinny Trocheck, very familiar with him in his game, who's actually been playing great for the Rangers.
Playing really well.
Now, when you're surrounded with talent like that, which he wasn't surrounded with talent like that on the Hurricanes roster that he was on, the players that are our stars now weren't quite those guys at that time. But Lafreniere then is on the right wing. So Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere on the second line. Then when it gets to their third line and fourth line, this is where, it can definitely swing in our favor. Will Cooley, Alex Wenberg, Capo Caco is on their third line, okay? Let's compare that to our third line. Jordan Martinook, Jack Drury, Martin Necas. I think there's definitely an advantage there, right?
Right.
And then in terms of fourth line, you're looking at Jimmy Vesey, Barclay Goodrow, and Matt Rempe. Now, it's a solid fourth line, but there's definitely a weakness there, and that's Matt Rempe. I don't think he's going to play this whole series. I think they are probably going to swap him in and out. That being said, I think he played the whole series for and they've got Philip Hedl coming back as well. Now, it's probably going to be a Brett Pesce type of situation where they're not going to be there at the start of the series, but maybe later on in the series. Maybe Pesce is going to be good to go. I don't know. I actually forgot to look into
I heard
that.
it was iffy, at least for the start of the series.
Yeah, okay. And then on our fourth line, you've got Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Stefan Nason.
Yeah, that line's going to score a lot of goals.
That's a distinctive. If you are matching our third and fourth lines up against each other, I think there's no way that you don't say our third and fourth lines are
right.
They've got good players. Alex Wenberg, Capo Caco, these are guys that are good players. But they're not the type of talent that we've got on our third and fourth line. Martin Necas and Evgeny Kuznetsov are some of the most skilled players in the entire NHL, and they're on our third and fourth lines, right?
Well, and then you have Nason, who's going to be a pest around the net,
right.
And he's a pest anywhere in the ozone,
right? So if you can create advantages with those mismatches, that's my biggest X factor. We just listed some star players that can, win, are game breakers, right, and can win you some games. But I think that's where the advantage is. So, as much as we want to talk about our top guys elevating and taking it to the next level and being the stars that we've needed them to be to win games, particularly in the playoffs where we've seen scoring dry up, I think we're so deep now that the third and fourth liners are going to be huge in this series, in my opinion.
Well,
absolutely massive.
the issue would be, John, is the Rangers have last change
Right.
first two games. So
Right.
those matchup may not come to fruition a lot during the game because Laviolette's he's going to
not until games 2 or games 3 and 4. Yeah,
3 and 4. Laviolette's going to take advantage of that.
That's definitely a good point.
So something we didn't talk about in our pregame review is the coaching matchup.
Yeah. There's some fun storylines in this series. That's obviously one of them. Rod being the captain of the Hurricanes when we won in 2006, Laviolette being the coach that year. And I think in large part the style that Rod plays now is very much influenced by the style that we were playing in 2006, which is just a go, go, go. You gotta be a strong forechecking team. And that's how we won the cup in 2006. Very strong forechecking team, and same thing here. With the style that Rod's been employing for the past few years. So I think it's a good, interesting storyline too. Now,
I guess if I was to try to give an advantage, I would think that Laviolette may have the advantage because he's coached the Canes, he's coached Brenda Moore, he knows what we're all about, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a coin toss,
but that's been 2006 was a long time ago. Things have changed. It's not like he stays in touch with Rod every day. It's not like he's Rod's therapist and knows the insight into his mind or
no,
like
but
that.
he can DVR every one of our games and go back and watch.
He's a very talented coach. I think for his record overall, he's a much more talented coach than his NHL record would have you believe. He's been on some duddish teams.
So you want to go over? Let's go over the stats from the first round of the playoffs versus the regular season stats.
Yeah.
Now I have 7 stats. I have goals for, goals against, penalty kill percentage, power play percentage, the number of shots for, the number of shots against, and then face-off percentage.
And these are just the head-to-head matchups against the Rangers, or
no. This is what the Canes did in the first round versus their regular season.
Go ahead.
And what the Rangers did against the Capitals versus their regular season.
It's stat time, folks.
Yeah. Real quick. So out of the 7 stats, the Canes actually did better on 4 of those versus their regular season in their first round series versus the Islanders. Goals for, we're up almost half a goal more per game. Goals against.
Give me. Half a goal per game, I guess is the right stat.
3.8 versus 3.38.
Okay.
Goals against 2.4 against the Isles. The regular season we were at 2.6, just under 2.6. So that's strong. The penalty kill is what's concerning me. We finished the Islander series at 73% versus the top rank in the league of 86%. I think we were top ranked. The power play was better. We scored on a third of our chances versus the regular season at 27%. We about the same number of shots per game, a little bit over 33 shots per game. Shots against, though, we gave up more shots, and which is kind of surprising.
And that's crazy because one of those games we only gave 12 shots.
Yeah,
and the whole game.
Yeah, and it's the Islanders who aren't.
Yeah, sorry,
it's not their game.
What is that stat?
It's 20. We gave up 27.2 shots versus 25.6 in the regular season.
Okay, so
face-offs we are at 50%. We were at 52.6% in the regular season. So of those stats, I like the goals for. I like the power play. What I don't like is the face-offs are down and the penalty kill is way down.
Yeah, that's not a good time to be down in either of those stats playoffs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I heard an announcer the other day. It wasn't our game. It was another game I was watching, talking about the face-off percentage because it is an official stat of the NHL, but it's almost like the plus minus. It's like, what is it telling you? Well, they said something that sparked my mind to say, oh, that's the importance. It's because whoever wins the face-off gets to dictate the play.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, well, yeah, that is important.
Mm-hmm.
So
the first move with the puck, once you get the possession of it, that belongs to that team, and that's huge.
Now the Rangers,
Possession
on the
in
other
general
hand,
is just huge.
Of those 7 stats, the Rangers did better against the Capitals in 6 of those 7 stats than they did in the regular season. But it's a Capitals, so there's some recency bias there, I'm sure.
There is, particularly with the fact that the Capitals are a team that sneaked into the playoffs with a massive goals for and goal differential disadvantage.
Negative goal differential.
Significant. So go ahead.
Yeah. Goals for 3.75 versus 3.4 in the regular season. Nothing really outstanding there. Goals against, though, they were under 2 goals against versus 2.8 in the regular season.
Ovechkin, 0 points in the playoff series. Not 1. That's concerning.
Yeah. So Ovechkin is. So you're saying Ovechkin is just as good as Kotkaniemi?
I believe KK might have had a point in the series.
No, he had 0.
No? Okay.
In 5 games.
Then yes, they're equal. Because KK at least had that massive hit against Clutterbuck, I think.
That was awesome. He played a good series. The 0 points is misleading.
100%. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Penalty
that line
kill
was good. His line was good.
Penalty kill 88% versus 85. Power play, though, they scored 37.5%. versus 26 points. So they really jumped up on the power play. Again, it's Washington. So here's an interesting stat.
We jumped up a lot on our power play, too.
Yeah.
26% roughly to 33%. I mean, that's a massive jump.
Yeah. They only shot 26 shots a game versus 31 and a half.
And that's a stat I'm really glad you said. So what is that, the shots per game regular season versus postseason here so far?
Shots against. 26 versus 31 and a half.
I'm sorry, season. Shots for. Do you have that stat?
Oh, that's what I just had. Shots for.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
26 shots a game versus 31 and a half in the regular season. Shots against were 25.3 versus 29 and a half. So what those stats tell me, both shots for and against, first round regular season, they're not gaining any clear advantage or really any meaningful advantage. In those stats. They're always giving up about the same number that they're taking.
The Capitals, right? They play that kind of lock it down to a large degree sort of style. So it's not surprising that the shots have gone down. That being said, they don't lock it down the way the Hurricanes lock it down.
Right.
Our shot suppression is second to none in this league. So now in the first round against the Islanders, it wasn't exactly that, except for in the game 2, where, like I said, they only had 12 shots on net. But yeah, I think getting in everything we're saying, like in my eyes, is kind of all just getting back to the point of we've got to get to our game, right? We don't want to play the Islanders a little bit more free-flowing, open game. It's easier for the Islanders stars to generate good offensive chances than it is for the Hurricanes stars to generate good offensive chances. And part of that has to do, I believe, at least in part, with the system that we employ. But also, I do think their elite talent is eliter than our elite talent. Panarin, no one on our team has over 110 points. Right. I believe he had, that on this team. So,
Yeah, Panarin's is
right.
Is
like we don't have a Chris Kreider. We don't have a Stefan Nason is a great net front guy. He's not as good at deflections as Chris Kreider is.
Well, right, and so yeah, I mean Kreider is
that's what I'm saying is like all of this is like the Hurricanes, if they can get to their game, which we know they can, they did it over the vast majority of the last half of an 82 game season.
Right.
They just we haven't really seen a full 60 minutes like you were saying last episode.
Right.
I would argue game 2, you probably saw that full 60, but we haven't seen a full 60. We haven't seen a game from the Hurricanes in the playoffs so far that was like the game that we last played against the Rangers. That was an extremely evenly, tightly, tightly contested match, right? the score was 1-0 only because of an errant shot from Adam Fox that went off Brady Shea's boot to beat Kochetkov, right?
Yeah.
This series is going to be extremely tight. It's going to come down to potentially even just bounces like that. Yeah.
Right. So I guess it kind of follows into what our keys to the game, and that is we got to keep the Rangers away from their power play. It's deadly, and one of the deadliest features of their power play is Chris Kreider camping out in front.
Mm.
And we have struggled with clearing out the net front presence. No, I know we have Burns. I know we have Slavin.
This earlier,
right?
Yeah,
we just it's tough to do that, and it's hard to do, like you said, because now you're leaving a guy open somewhere, and that could be Panarin or Zibanejad for a one-timer at the circle.
Right.
So it's going to be tough, and that's the importance of staying out of the penalty box.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting though is playoff hockey's it's refereed a lot differently.
Oh, way different.
And in general, I'm okay with it, but sometimes there are some crucial calls that aren't made.
Yeah.
That can turn a game.
Did you watch the end of the Vancouver-Nashville game by chance?
Mm-mm.
Very exciting, really good. That game I watched in parts. That game was freaking boring in parts, but it was 1-0. Vancouver ended up winning. They got their game winner with like 3 minutes to go or something like that. Something like that. So pretty late in the game, Nashville was playing well, but they had to scramble. They had a really, great 6-on-5, time, some good looks. And then the puck goes up in the air. One of the Nashville players is catching it in the process of catching it and putting it down, and he's cross-checked by Lindholm. There's 39 seconds left in the game or something like that. And the referee makes the right call, and he calls the penalty. Now, they easily could have not called that penalty given that it's playoffs, yada, yada, yada. But I thought it was really good that they made that call, and it was the right call. It was clear and obvious. Like when they showed the replay, it was like, oh yeah, he had to call that one. But, given the timing of it all. So we'll, obviously officiating is going to matter, but I just wanted to bring that up because it was kind of relevant to your point.
I think, my point is this: in the effort, in the spirit of competition, the refs are letting them play a little bit harder.
Yes.
The problem is when you start doing that, then everything becomes a judgment call.
Mm-hmm.
If you call it by the book, then it takes out all these judgment calls.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you make a bad call, my intention was to call it by the book. Right. And that's where I have trouble with playoff hockey.
But which would you prefer, I guess?
I'd want them to call the penalty.
You want them to call it by the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the Hurricanes, that does probably bode well, right? If they're calling everything by the book because of the way that the Hurricanes can get to that forecheck and kind of be relentless and keep teams out there for a long time where they get tired, you're going to see a lot more stick infractions, guys reaching in, tapping on the hands when shots are coming rather than, getting under the stick and lifting it. That's, technically a slash when you hit a guy on the hands with your stick. So,
yeah, I think you're right. Because what happens is the referees start keeping a tally in their head of the calls that they made, and they start. This is what I think they do: is they're saying to themselves, "Yeah, I let that tripping go." As he's skating back down the ice, he's like, "Yeah, I wonder if I should have called that a tripping penalty." And then the next time it comes up, does he be consistent with what he called earlier in the game, or does he call it by the book? And then. And then you get into things like, oh shit, I shouldn't have called that a tripping. Now I got to find another penalty on the other team to kind of even out my bad call. It's just too much.
It's the hardest job in sports.
Well, yeah.
You don't think so?
Unless you're a UA Premier League referee and you got to cover the entire pitch.
Yeah, I guess
one referee.
That's pretty difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's talk. So you talked about Panarin but let's just talk. There's a couple guys on our team that although they didn't get on the score sheet much. They played. I think they had a pretty good series. And that's Aho and Kokanami. Aho only had 3 points in 5 games, 2 goals.
But I mean,
one was a crucial goal.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
you
for the Rangers,
you don't win that series in 5 games without Sebastian Aho.
Right. And then KK had no points, no assists. But like you and I had said earlier, I think he played pretty well. And then on the Rangers in 4 games, Panarin had 3 points. Kreider had 3 points. And that kind of worries me because you start thinking about things like progressing and regressing to the mean. Panarin's a point-a-game player, and he was at 0.6 points.
Due for an upswing. Both
that's
those
what
guys.
I'm worried about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an unbelievably tight series. So, I think I've covered everything. Is there? If you want to keep talking about some other players, we definitely can.
Just one other comment that the hockey guy brought up when he was looking at the stats of the two teams. The Canes had 29 power plays, or 29 penalties, 4 in our favor.
Sure.
In the first series against 20 that we get the penalty that we gave up.
Yeah.
Whereas the Rangers and the Capitals were both 20 apiece.
Yeah. That's
if
another
we can keep that differential,
mm-hmm.
that penalty, I'll call it the penalty differential.
Yeah.
We'll win this series.
That's what I'm saying. That's huge here, right? Like we both mentioned it multiple times. I think that's absolutely critical. If you want to, there's 2 ways of looking at it. You say this series is won or lost on the special teams, or it's won or lost on 5-on-5 as a result of what happens on the special teams because of how you play 5-on-5, right? So, 2 sides of the same coin. But yeah, it's it's absolutely critical that the Hurricanes minimize the amount of power play goals that are scored by the New York Rangers. It's a way too talented team. You just can't give them that many good looks. Even guys like Vinny Trocheck are on their first unit, but he's playing unbelievable, right? Like we know how good of a player he can be. He's winning a lot of faceoffs for them. Our guys need to step it up in that department. They need to step it up in the penalty kill department. They need to step it up in the forechecking and getting to their game department. If they can do that, there's plenty of reason to believe that the Hurricanes are going to come out of this series. Vegas has it, in our favor that way in terms of the odds right now anyway. So let's go ahead and do our final predictions on the series. Do you want to change anything? I think you said Canes in 7.
I said Canes in 7. No, I think I don't want to pick the Rangers.
Yeah,
if I was a neutral party, I probably would go with the home ice team.
Wow! This guy said it here on the podcast.
But I'm not changing my prediction. I'm just saying.
I know.
I'm saying if I was a hockey analyst,
you are.
I would say the Rangers are going to win this series because they have home ice advantage and they're the number 1 scoring team in the league.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's your take. I don't want to agree with you because I do think that home ice doesn't mean as much as it did in the last time we played them. I don't think it matters as much. We've shown that we can win on the road, at least in this playoffs already. We did it last playoffs as well. I think that this game is actually going to be Hurricanes in 6. I'm going to change it.
Oh, good.
If the Hurricanes can get to their game, and I think that they can because I think that they weren't as sharp as they wanted to be against the Islanders. I think Rod knows it. I think they're going to look at some tape. I think they're going to work on some things. I think Rod is a better coach than Laviolette, actually. And so I think that the Hurricanes are going to make the changes that are necessary. They have the talent to hopefully, progress and keep the goals up like they need to, right? That's always where it falls off in the playoffs. I think they have the talent to do that. It's whether or not the mentally they're going to be playing sharp enough defensively to limit the skill on the other team. And I think if they can do that, they win this series in 6 games. I think they are going to do that. I think you're actually going to see a split. The first 2 games are going to be a split. I actually think the second 2 games are also going to be a split. I think it's going to be 1-1, 1-1.
Then we're going to win the next 2.
Are going to win the next 2 games after that to win this series.
Okay, so the Canes are down 2 starters from the regular season.
Jesper Fast and
Brett
Pesce. Yep. Now Pesce may come back in this series, maybe late. I don't know if if Tony is playing as well as he is, if it's worth getting.
Yeah, I'd rather have a.
I'd like to see
Tony
Pesce be able to get up to game speed.
You're right. That's the problem.
All.
Pesce's a guy who could probably give Kreider some problems.
Definitely. Pesce is made for playoff hockey. Like he's a very good player. We're certainly missing him.
Yep. Okay. That's all I had.
That's my pick. Canes in 6.
Canes in 7.
Canes in
3 o'clock tomorrow Central Time.
Who's going to have the most points in this series for the Hurricanes?
Oh, I'm going with the hot hand. I'm going to stay with Seth Jarvis.
Seth Jarvis again.
Yeah.
I would say that that's a good pick. And just to say something different, I'll go with Sebastian Aho.
Oh, I would love to see that.
Do we see Pyotr Kochetkov in this series?
Yes, we do.
Ooh, okay. I hope we don't.
We do for good reasons.
Yeah.
We do for good reasons.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah. And the only other thing I want to say is if I'm Brindamore and I have one direction to give to one player, it's to Martin Necas, and it's dump the puck
get
in
it
the
deep,
freaking ozone.
Yeah.
Stop trying to skate through 3 or 4 guys. Just dump the puck. Okay. That's my advice.
Well, thank you everyone for listening and watching, and we really appreciate it. Go Canes.
Go Canes.
Let us know your predictions. If anyone is here to the end of the video and listens this long, please like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Comment what you think the series win is going to be. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.